A three-member panel that has been appointed to probe President Cyril Ramaphosa's role in the Phala Phala farm robbery is expected to start its work soon. They've been tasked with determining whether there's sufficient evidence to institute impeachment proceedings against the president. Now, on Wednesday, National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula announced that former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo will lead this panel. This follows a motion by the African Transformation Movement to have Ramaphosa investigated following the alleged theft of millions in hard cash from his farm. For more on this, we speak to political analyst Dr. Oscar van Heerden. Dr. van Heerden, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Douglas.
Well, we recently found out that less than half of the 17 individuals who were nominated to the panel, in fact, declined. You know, they could not avail themselves. And we know that a number of these individuals include former Chief Justice Mogoeng, former Deputy Chief Justice Thakgang Moseneke, prominent, eminent individuals when it comes to the legal profession and the leading experts when it comes to law in this country. What should we make of that? Is that something that we can read into, a sort of reluctance to participate in this process?
Yeah, I think that this is obviously quite a political hot potato, as all of us can imagine. It is speaking to misconduct on the part of President Ramaphosa, who is the leader of the government. And I think that some people have decided that they'd rather want to steer clear of this particular hot potato. But I do think that those that have agreed, those that said they would step forward to actually look at this matter, is doing the country a huge favor, because we do need to get clarity with regards to the Phala Phala farm saga.
Now, this Section 8-9 process, we know it's a novel process. Its rules only established a few years ago after the 2017 Nkandla judgment. So all eyes will be on how this three-member panel, in fact, carries out this first stage, this pilot phase of its inquiry and its investigations. What does it mean, though, for our legislative framework when it comes to accountability in South Africa, that we have this process and it's seemingly about to get underway?
It's yet another indication of how strong our democracy is, because of lived experiences, because of these kinds of problems that have cropped up. The necessary legislation was put in place to make sure that people are held accountable and that there are consequence management. And I think that it's yet again another indication of how strong our constitution is, how strong our legislature is with regards to wanting to make sure that we hold people accountable, whether you are the president or not. And I think this is a good thing. As to how the panel itself is going to conduct itself, I think that given the individuals involved, it will be with a certain element of professionalism. They would apply themselves and apply the law and come to a determination. And I can say already now that determination is not necessarily going to be accepted by everyone.
You know, given that we're setting out with the independent panel going about its work, we know that they will eventually, once the 30 days are up, they will eventually table some kind of a report before Parliament, and then it will be up to the Section 8-9 parliamentary inquiry to take up the responsibility of either furthering the findings of the panel. So in many ways, this is also a test for Parliament and its commitment to sort of conducting its oversight responsibilities over the executive, particularly as well for ANC MPs, how they actually respond to whatever findings come out of this particular panel.
Absolutely. I mean, this is all eyes will be on the panel and what recommendations they come up with. I think that as far as the ANC MPs are concerned, they would want to give the necessary support to such a panel and hope that the panel will come with recommendations that are favoring their leading candidate, which is Ramaphosa. Of course, if the committee says that impeachment proceedings should be followed and should be instigated, that's when the ANC as a party is obviously going to have to decide how they will vote going forward.
You know, it's interesting because we're talking about the novelty of the Section 8-9 process, and we have a very similar process underway with the Section 194 process looking into the public protector's fitness to hold office. We've seen how suspended public protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane has responded to that particular inquiry. She's been lodging legal bids every so often, really trying to either delay or postpone the inquiry and its proceedings from getting underway. They are currently underway, but even then we're still seeing sort of legal battles ensuing in the Western Cape High Court. Should we see similar behavior from the president? What should we make of that? Because he has been pretty reluctant to this stage, really, to be open with what happened on his Phala Phala farm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think one of the good things that we are seeing, people might be frustrated with these toing and froing and the interplay between the legislature and the judiciary. But I think that this is what our constitution allows. This is what is permitted in terms of the rights of individuals, including the public protector as well as the president. These are channels that are open to them to try and make sure that their rights are not infringed and so forth. So I think, again, it's a test to how the legislature and the legislature processes are interacting and coexisting with the judiciary. I think thus far it has worked. And as for the public protector, she is exercising her rights. We have seen that sometimes the courts don't always find in her favor, and sometimes they do. The latest being that the manner in which she was suspended was not necessarily legal. And she is obviously taking that forward to the Constitutional Court and so forth. Similarly with the president, I think that if it so happens that the president legal team feels that they need to also seek intervention from the courts, they will probably do so. But I think you are right, Ntokoza. There is still unanswered questions. The president has to step up. The nation wants to know what exactly happened, and we deserve to know.
There's the question of whether or not what comes out of this independent panel's inquiry is something that will be satisfactory to political parties. I mean, we saw recently in Parliament when the President was answering questions put to him by opposition parties with regards to Phala Phala, that a lot of what he said was found unsatisfactory by political parties such as the African Transformation Movement. How should we respond in an instance where, or a possibility where, the panel's findings are not what opposition parties like the ATM have in fact been looking for, and essentially are rejecting the outcomes of that independent panel? How should we react or respond in an environment like that?
Well, you know, the thing is, Ntokoza, that you follow procedure, and the legislature has got rules, and the rules permit that such an independent committee can be constituted. They can make recommendations. It is not going to be to the satisfaction of everyone, of course, but these are the rules that are permitted. If parties have a problem with the outcome, that is unfortunate. And they can decide however else they want to take it forward, whether independently into the courts and lay charges and so forth, as we've seen the Democratic Alliance have done on numerous occasions. They can exercise that right. But it's like saying, for example, that a court rules that you are innocent for argument's sake, and people are dissatisfied and therefore wants to take it on review and appeal. Once all of those processes have been satisfied, have been exhausted, then unfortunately we have to accept the outcome, even if it means we don't agree with it.
Well, Dr. van Heerden, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us this morning, helping us to have that conversation around that three-member independent panel. That's political analyst Dr. Oscar van Heerden. Up next. Onto this now, the Queen